Um, It occurs to me that the superintendent's performance review is typically done after there's a new board seated, and it seems to me that it would be a better idea to do it while the current board is in place. So I'd like to make a motion that we entertain doing the superintendent's performance review before the next election.
Mr. Collins?
Just a point of order, that's an SAU board issue, not a Timberland board issue.
That's correct. It is an SAU board issue.
Yeah, that's right.
We'd have
So
to have
when is the
everybody.
next SAU meeting?
April.
April.
Yeah,
Why did we do it that way?
after the election,
Yeah, it's not a
because
good
we do
idea.
it after.
Mr. Collins?
So, I am actually gonna bring up a new, point of business.
Oh, I'm not quite finished mine, excuse me.
Oh.
So I would like to make a motion that we ask the SAU board to convene before the next election for the purpose of superintendent's performance review.
Is there a second?
Well, I'll second it for discussion. We can ask them, you know, we have to have Hampstead on board. So we gotta find, gee, we only have a couple weeks.
I know, I just remember having lengthy discussions about the whole evaluation process and the SAU board. I mean, this isn't something that was done without some forethought.
I mean, that's a good point, actually.
Is there any other
How
discussion on
could
the
we-
motion? Mr. Collins?
If you want me to speak to it, I contributed quite a bit to the revamping of the process.
yeah.
What used to happen was we would evaluate the superintendent in October, when we were forming the budget,
Right.
when the SAU board was meeting then. That didn't make a lot of sense because we were evaluating him on the previous year when the budget was already in place. So what we did was we shifted it back when Dr. Metzler came on board. The way his contract is structured, it made it a lot more sense to evaluate him before the end of the fiscal year, as opposed to 3 months into the new fiscal year. And so we moved it to that time. Do you move it to February to evaluate him about the work he's doing currently when we're not really near the end of the school year? I don't think that makes sense either. There isn't an ideal time to do it. I understand Mrs. Green's point about new board members coming on, but that's just the way it happens. That's the way the cookie crumbles with that. So the SAU board, after a lot of discussion, a lot of looking into things, decided that moving it to where it is now, which is in June, I believe, is the best spot to have it.
So it's as close to the end of the year as
So
we
it
can
is,
make it.
so it's in
Correct.
June,
Yeah,
so,
it's
yeah.
the meeting in June.
Mr. Sapia?
So I guess I have a question, and then from a plain old logistical standpoint, wouldn't you have to get the Hampstead people on board, and then the SAU would have to agree to come in, and then how long does that review process take? Because I honestly don't know how long that, so you may not even have enough time to do what
Yeah.
Mrs. Green suggests, just from a plain old logistical standpoint.
It's
How long
done
does
over the
that
course
review-
of several meetings.
So it's almost it would be impossible to actually get that done.
Yeah, there's
in the
several
timeframe that's
steps.
been
There's
suggested.
there's
I think
a
it may be a discussion worth having, for next year. I don't think it's realistic to change the
I
process,
don't know how we could, because there's got to be a self piece, and
because it's a pretty in-depth.
his
there's a
direct
lot of
reports
steps
do
to
a
it.
360 evaluation,
Yeah.
it's gotta do
or a
360.
360 feedback.
But I
There's a
understand what you're
self-evaluation that's done. There's each board member does an evaluation. All that is collected by Mrs. Belcher. It takes her a lot of time to compile it all and put it in a readable format.
Right.
The board meets, evaluates everything, has discussions, and then the board meets again to finalize everything.
So my
Want to
point.
make another comment before we call the question on
Yeah,
this?
my point would be that we can do the board element of evaluation, and all those other pieces can come afterwards.
I would disagree
Oh,
completely
no.
because the final piece is the evaluation letter.
Mhm.
That's pulled together. And if you only provide feedback through an online survey but aren't there for the discussion about the letter, then it's pointless, based on how it's set up.
So how is it-
In terms of
how
who's
is
making
it-
the evaluation.
How is it less pointless to have new people who haven't had any experience working with the superintendent be involved in that? I mean, that's more pointless.
I disagree, but, I mean, like I said, there's no great time to do it. There just isn't. So, why would we evaluate someone when they're halfway through the job that they're doing?
I'm going to call the question on this. All those in favor of the motion to make the recommendation to the SAU to change the evaluation? Opposed?
Motion fails by a vote of 1, 4, and 6 again.
Okay.